it was very clear talking to you that you knew that you wanted to take a different path, right? That you wanted to continue really being on the front lines, that green tab leadership, but also that servant leadership. And then you layer on top of that your history with Team Red, White, and Blue, all these things kind of stacked together to make sort of this perfect storm. But I knew it was still a process, right? You still, one, had more time in the military. Two, you don't just bring in an executive director from the outside and say, okay, hey, so we had this very intentional plan where first you intern. The Army has a great process now, like the SkillBridge program, where you can now intern with organizations. So you did that. You got to see different elements of the marketing and the technology and the operations and the fundraising, all the different aspects of the organization, right? And then you moved into the chief of staff role.
Yeah.
Right. And then there was the conversations, with the board, me letting the board know, hey, I'd like to get us to that 15-year celebration, back at the Twin Cities Marathon where it all began. But I knew it was time for me to step aside and to bring someone in who not only has more leadership chops than me, but also has that fire that's on my level, right? That's the one thing people sort of know about me is that Mike Erwin is fired up, right? That is something that I'm proud of. That's just part of my DNA. Having that energy to include out there on social media, but also being an external focused executive director and an internal, you just met all, you checked every single box. And so once you got into that chief of staff role and working with the board, it was very clear.
I think the goodness is the experience I had with the organization from the very start.
Yes.
So I've kind of seen it, at least as a member, from that aspect for, almost
15 years,
14 years, right?
Yep.
Last year. So there's a benefit there. Obviously our personal relationship, we knew, each other's strengths, weaknesses, and it's not just finding the right people, but the process in and of itself was I think key to getting us to right here where we're talking right now, right? So, and this idea of a movement is a powerful idea. I saw an opportunity to the movement still exists.
Yeah.
And then we started even talking, more about the stats, right? Of in terms of obesity crisis in America and how veterans are now more obese than their civilian counterparts for the first time in history. And it kind of one of those things probably on a long run that I was what would Mike say about this? And he's like, it's the movement again. We have an opportunity because RWB is about accountability. It's about giving people a sense of purpose. And it's that mission, to take care of yourself and the others around you, right? That hasn't changed. And it's even more important now for us to lean back into that, to give veterans that purpose again and that mission.